Welcome to Home's Room. Just like homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. Today we have another educator, but more importantly, she's a student of the world, taking opportunities as they come and living in adventure. The lovely Miss Sommer. Welcome to Home's Room.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Good. We hope that educators are excited to be in Home's Room just simply because we're named after a school thing. So hopefully they're excited. Can you tell everyone a little bit about how we met, if you remember that story? Because for me, it was a blur.
So I know your wife, right?
Yeah, you do. You do.
Your wife and I were best friends, and we were like thick as thieves, right? She invited me over. We were having a party. There's lots of, I don't know what we can say on here, underage drinks.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot
Right.
of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was you. You guys had met I remember you guys had met at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And we were playing drinking games. You got smashed. I think I was like the least drunk that night, which was unusual for me because normally I was the one that was the worst. So I kind of like witnessed it all. That was like the budding of your relationship. I was like first drinking. I think you guys had hung out, and that was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That was literally the first time that her and I had hung out outside of work, because we did work together. Mm-hmm. And I remember you standing at the end of the concession stand being like, "Courtney, hurry up. Will you come on? Stop talking to this guy." And I was like, "Friends, go away. Let me do my job."
I was Courtney. I needed all of her attention.
It was fun though, but it was a good night, and you ended up taking care of all of us in some way at some point in time. So we appreciate it. And that means I've known you for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And you've got some adventures under your belt that I'm excited to hear about. And like, it's been a minute since we've spoken in person. So this should, hopefully be fun. What are you up to these days?
So I'm a teacher in Lawrence. I teach special education. I'm currently in like a behavior classroom. It's specialized for kids with significant behaviors and emotional disturbance. And so I love it. I absolutely love what I do. It's been a weird winding road to get here. So career-wise, that's what I'm doing. I also kind of do a homesteading thing right now that I've been working on for a while. Yeah. I'm a farmer. I like to garden. I do odd selling produce stuff on the side, and I like growing things. I like science. I do a lot of little things.
Yeah, you fit right in here. That's what we're about. People that live their life on their own terms, and if they're like, "Ooh, this is a niche I want to learn," you just go after it. And that's what life's about, in my opinion. Is just having fun and learning skills and all that kind of stuff, which is exciting to me. I think that the homesteading thing is definitely something I want to get into, because I think that just sounds like amazing to me. But I think that from what I know about you as a person, you've always kind of been super supportive, super just like child of the world, and I love that. I can't tell any guest how much I appreciate that one thing, because that's honestly like, that to me is what life is about. So good job on that.
It's not always easy to be that way, like experiencing things like as a child all the time, like wanting to have that like need for learning constantly, and like knowing and humbling yourself and being like, I don't know what to do,
humbling
but
yourself,
make a decision, and that's how it's going to be. And everyone might think it's weird or not the right thing, but I'll learn from it. And I'm not afraid of making mistakes either, because you have to be comfortable with not doing the right thing at the time.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's like the best attitude. It's hard. It is hard. And there's so many things that I jump into and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. like podcasting. It's just a thing I wanted to do, and it's like the only thing stopping me is the pressing buy on the microphone. So like that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. So when it comes to learning and taking in the world, uh, where are you? Were you always like adventurous, or was it something that just like happened one day where you were just like, "Yo, let's just do this," or was it just like
I think
tiny
people
you?
who have known me would always say that I was always down for a new thing, a new adventure.
Awesome.
Like very easy to meet new people. I like learning from new people, so I'm never
Hmm.
afraid of like putting myself out there for people to get to know me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can be more reserved, but I'm always very open to it. Anyone who knows me for a very long time would be like that. I've often been described as like a free spirit, like she's just, or a social butterfly. She's just going everywhere and fitting in where I, connect, like on what connections, because you can always find a connection with someone, no matter who you
Yeah.
meet, even if you like them or you don't like them, you've got things in common. You just
Hmm.
have to talk to them to figure it
Yeah.
out. And I was never ever afraid to talk to people to get to know them. So as far as people are what lead you on adventures too. I'm not just sitting alone in a room and coming up with these things on my own. They have been part of my experience, and most of my experience is because of other people. The people I've met, the people I've run
Yeah.
into, decisions I've made that have led me to other people. And people are what kind of drive me. So like on all of my stories, anything I talk about, there's always people along the way of those stories
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it always makes me kind of like I'm similar in that way. I'm way worse about it now in adulthood than I was when I was younger, but it always makes me think of like what I imagine, like my interpretation of like what the Wild West would have been like, where you're just riding on your horse, going through the middle of nowhere, and you come across somebody that's like, you know, cooking a pot of beans, and you just sit down and like, hey, there's safety in numbers. You cool if I just camp out here? And then you start swapping stories, and now you got a group of people that you're riding around with until you get to the next place, and you part ways, and you just do it all over again. And I love that. There's something about for me, as much as I want to just like go out in the woods, build a tiny house, and disappear, I still would have to have that like group mentality where I could just go start talking to people. I miss that thing about school in general, where it's just like a new class started, and it's just like, hey, I've seen you around. What's up? And that's exciting. So I appreciate somebody else that's got that same kind of outlook.
Yeah, I just what you're saying, I have so many like actually like stories about like that's actually what my life is kind of like. Like I've got my property out in the woods where I'm alone, but I've also like actually lived like a Wild West adventure and walked all across the United States and sat down at people's fires and been like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and that's definitely some stuff I want to hear about, like some of those fun stories. But before we jump into those stories, I do, you just built a house, you talked about it being a
Yeah.
homestead, so we are considering it more of a homestead than a house.
Because it didn't have a home on it, like, and
Hmm.
I'm building the home, I'm still actively building the home. Um, I'm still basically kind of roughing it. I don't actually have a real sort of house that people live in yet. It's so close. But yeah, it's a homestead because there's no one that's lived on that property before as far as like what I'm doing with it now. So
That's awesome. What led you to that? What got you to, like I said, buying a microphone? What got you to homesteading?
definitely not wanting to rent in our in
Yeah,
this society anymore. My money just being going to someone else and not having that ownership of the place.
yeah,
I really wanted to be in the country because I wanted a farm. I wanted to grow my own food. I wanted animals. I wanted that. So
yeah,
looking at what do I buy? Like looking all around for a
yeah,
year, saving up the money too for it with my partner. And we just looked at so many places. We just looked at so many places. And then we kind of needed to buy actually something with a house because that was going to be the most bang for the fuck, but I just
Hmm.
happened to click on, oh, this is way out of my price range. It's land, but I was just clicking around. I'm like, I'm gonna look at it. It was on Zillow, but it wasn't just land. So when I click, it looks like it's just land. It looks like, well, if that's land, I can't afford to build a house on it. So I should never click on that, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But I did. I clicked on it. And it wasn't just land, it was a YMCA campground with multiple
Oh,
outbuildings, electric hookup, rural water hookups, ready to build something on. And also, again, multiple outbuildings, 4 cabins, 2
that's awesome.
insulated shops, and a dining hall, which I am converting into the house. So,
Yeah,
big open space that was the dining hall for the YMCA summer campground. And that's what I'm renovating that into a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
see,
it's just it was serendipitous that I clicked, right?
yeah,
And that I could have not done it. I
that's
could have
so
not
amazing.
clicked on it.
Yeah, that's all it takes. And I like that's one of the things that why I get like when I get the guests that I get, it's always like they have a story like that. Like they just by like happenstance just decided to do this thing and now here we are. And I love that. That's so it it's taking the risk of like what's the worst that can happen. I like to say, you could either sit there and sit on the couch and be like, oh well, and not be active, or you can be active and just be like, I'm going to click on one more thing, and that one more thing ends up being the golden ticket. And I love that. Gotta ask, with the cabins and the outbuildings, are you gonna do like one of those little tiny like Airbnb-ish things? I can't remember what they're called, when it's like essentially like a one-room cabin to like just rent out to somebody for like a weekend if they
Yeah,
needed to
those
like
are on
escape.
Airbnbs too. There's also another app that's called like Camp or something.
Yeah, it's camp.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah. Um, yeah, so they were bunk houses. There were 6 bunks in each cabin. Um, that is not, I'm not looking to run a summer camp for
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
or anything. Or it was like a lot of Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops in the past. That kind of stuff, people don't really do that anymore. It's different
Hmm.
times. But yeah, we're renovating them into like more family style camping.
Yeah.
So a couple beds in them. We're putting wood stoves in them and little kitchenettes probably. So
Yeah.
it would be a private campground to rent for more
That's
private
awesome.
camping. That would be
Yeah.
exclusive, kind of like to when you rent it, sort of
Yeah.
style. Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things that like I you like hitting a gold mine, whatever, right? Gold mine, that's what you
Yeah,
hit.
I feel like
Um
I'm living a $1 million lifestyle without the $1 million. Because I'll tell you about it more, but I'm roughing it. I'm
yeah,
really roughing
you're you're morally rich, and I believe when you are morally rich, you end up getting way more benefit out of it than being like physically like financially rich, at least in my opinion. I don't know, I'm also not rich, so I don't know if I have room to talk on that. But so yeah, let's hear some of those roughing it stories. What you got? Anything fun that you want to share?
it. Well, I currently have an outhouse. It's actually a composting toilet, and I've been using that since we bought the place in 2020. Um,
Ooh.
we've been doing tons of work on the water lines because a lot of it was busted. So again, if you buy a property, sometimes you never know what you're going to get. This was not traditional property. We didn't do any inspections because this wasn't a house, right?
Yeah.
This was land. Like it was sold to us as land. I mean, yes, it had all these things, but it's really just land. So yeah, there's a lot of problems that we ran in through all of this. We're very close. We replaced like 900 feet of water line. We definitely need that water line to get toilets to work and all of that. So I've been using a composting toilet, and you know what? I don't even mind the outhouse at all. I haven't suffered at all using that even in
Man,
the winter or anything. It's
that's
really funny though when like the shit bucket freezes. What are
yeah.
you going to do to empty it? Well, I guess
Yeah,
you could bring it into a different building and put a heater on it. And there's just a lot of stories. But
that's
that's what
yeah.
I mean by
Yeah.
roughing. I'm bringing in my water right now. I have like a propane heated little shower. makeshift shower thing. I have to empty that tub after a couple uses. I empty that to be able to use it again. So I'm not living in luxury just yet.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. And I think that, you know, it works for a lot of different things. But Keith Urban said, he's happy being a starving artist, and if that's what he's got to do to make it to where he wants to go, he's just ready to start the starving. And that was his like outlook on the beginning of his career. And I think that lends itself to so many different situations, and that's definitely one of those situations where you're just like, this sucks now, but I can see where this is going, and when it's done, all of that will be worth it. But also, those are fun stories that you can have, and if you share them with another person, that like, you remember that time, like me and Courtney lived in Wyoming in a 1-bedroom hotel room with no kitchen, just like one of those little separated like sinks, and in a bathroom and a shower, and we had a 1.5-year-old, so it was like, it was gnarly. And we got my sister bought us a single burner stove, like electric stove thing, so we got a toaster oven, we had that, and a microwave, and that was how we lived for 9 months in between two mountains in Wyoming in a hotel room.
I feel that.
Yeah,
I
it
have a
was.
microwave. So I'm living in one of the shops. And so it's like a studio apartment right now. And that's what I have. I've got a toaster oven. I got a single burner. I'm bringing in I can boil water. I've got a
Yep.
wood stove in there for heat. I could cook on that too. But it's a simplistic life. But man, it sure makes, when you do have amenities, like,
Hmm.
appreciate them. Understand that like just the experience of not having it makes you understand the value of it.
Absolutely,
And I
that
think
is, we talk
everyone
about that
just
all the
doesn't
time.
think about it. You just don't think about it. But every time you go to use maybe your current oven, you're like, wow, that
Hmm.
single burner, like, this is so much easier to cook a family meal on 4 burners than just the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's 100%. We joke about it and talk about it all the time. Where it's like, you remember that time? We would plan our meals so we could rotate out what we needed. So whatever we were going to cook, everything had like offsetable times, so that you can start one thing while cooking another thing while that thing is doing this. So we could just like make it work. And like I said, it was Wyoming, so it was cold in the winter, and it was a nice, at least a decently warm hotel room for the most part. But our door faced the wind coming over the pass, basically. So it was just like ice cold wind all the time. So if our windows would like, yeah, condensation would freeze on the inside of the window. It was crazy. So like, if you're dealing with that kind of stuff in your situation, like, yeah, that would be miserable. But again, it would be that story. Like, look what we survived. Look what we were able to, to get through. And now we're here. And I, for one, hopefully, when everything's all said and done, get to hang out there with you, because I definitely want to see it in person.
You just gotta be okay
Just,
with the outhouse. You just gotta like
yeah,
be okay with that. You can come out anytime.
yeah, I definitely I grew up
That
roughing it. Like,
stops
I'm
some
a
people.
camper.
That's yeah, but that stops some people, like that,
Yeah,
not having the running water, not having like the toilet, not like that will just stop people from visiting, overnight or anything. Um,
that was your plan, huh? To keep people away. You were just like, you know what? We could
we
keep the
talk
riffraff out.
My partner and I talk about like, once we have this house, everyone's gonna never leave. They're gonna want to come over all the time. Oh,
I
your
love it.
parents are gonna stay. Now they like visit. Now they're gonna stay. No.
Yeah,
We did talk about that a little bit. Like, it's gonna be
that's funny.
different. It's gonna be different. Like, once you get
Yeah.
the house, it changes the lifestyle. I've we One of the reasons that like I've been set up though in my life to be able to do this without hesitation is that like I did live in a tent for 6 months, and like
Hmm.
this feels way more luxurious. What I'm doing now, way more
Hmm.
luxurious than a tent. Um,
That's, see, that's the thing is, I think that, I grew up And for people out there that like assume, I'm a podcaster and I have a microphone and earphones on my head, so I must have always had it, whatever. Nah, man, I grew up in a spotty financial family, so like I remember going, months without water, months without electricity, all that kind of stuff because we couldn't afford it. So, my life now is like everything's easy in comparison to that. I remember what it's like to not have running water, or not have any of that stuff. So like, it just kind of is, like you make sure before you leave school to go to the bathroom if you had to, just because that makes life slightly simpler. And, that little thing that you appreciate because you have running water in your house, that is a thing that not everybody gets. But when, what you're talking about is the circumstance, it's like, I, you could be miserable because you just choose to harp on the negative, or you could laugh at it, and that's what you're doing. Like this is a funny situation, and I've been through worse, so I can get through this. And that's what we love here, is people that are just like, I I could be, this is terrible, whiny, or I could be like, yo, this is better. My new favorite saying that I heard the other day on a show on Apple TV, I think, is, she was trying to convince herself everything was all right. She said, I'm warm, I'm dry, and I'm not getting shot at. And I was like, absolutely. Anybody that's ever been through any struggle knows, if I'm warm and I'm dry, life ain't so bad, because I could be wet and freezing, or one leads to the other, and I don't want that. So,
Sometimes you do, like, if you get into like those emotional states where you're feeling really overwhelmed by life or just what has happened or an event, I mean, you have to recheck yourself and be like, this is not a survival situation. Do I
mm-hmm,
do I have food? I have access to
mm-hmm,
food? Yes. Do I have water? Yes. Do I have shelter to stay dry, to stay warm? Yes. And then it kind of puts me back into perspective.
yeah,
Because when I was like living across America, like I would worry about water sometimes, and that anxiety gets that is what I if I have anxiety now, I'm like, no. Remember
mm-hmm.
when I was like really worried about getting water? That was kind of scary.
Ooh, that's interesting. That is an interesting, like,
But it was a choice. I like it. You can get through things if it's your choice. It's a lot harder to deal with situations positively when you've had no choice in the
yeah,
matter. I was
yeah,
never forced into any of the situations I've ever been in. I've never been like in a condition where I didn't set the conditions for that, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm, yeah,
And any relationships I've had in the past where I felt like I was out of control of it, then I've ended those kinds of things.
yeah. It's such a, like an interesting, I've talked to a lot of people now, and hearing their stories, and a lot of people that tend to have this a shared view like we kind of do. That's kind of what their mentality has been, is like, I've been in a worse situation by my choice, and I realize that I have the power to be in this position or not, and any of the consequences or any of the outcomes or anything kind of results in my decisions. And I own that, and now I know where I've been and I know where I want to go, and you just kind of balance that out to, find your goals. And I think that that's, just as a human being, that's hard to find. That's hard to do. So again, good on you. That's awesome.
I mean, those moments you were talking about, like growing up and having those insecurities of certain maybe needs like that other people have, like the running water in your
Hmm.
house and heat and all of those things. Like as a child, you're so everything's out of your control. And when you experience something like that, it can really, really affect you and the decisions you make in the future, for positive or for worse. It can be very fine line of how it's going to go.
Hmm.
Like those situations you've described could like very easily have made you very insecure rather than stepping out and doing stuff and experiencing things and finding the bright side. Like you could be pushing back on the world and have a very like unsafe view of the world.
Hmm.
And I think that my view of the world has always maintained that I can make it a safe place. But if that ever changed, where I felt like the world itself was so frightening, like my whole life would change if I had that view.
Yeah.
I had, there was a moment where we lost electricity when I was growing up, and that, like, I remember that so clearly, like heating, like not having hot water to shower and experiencing like what is it like to bathe yourself with really cold water and discomfort and kind
Hmm.
of feeling scared and anxious about it, to then taking that experience in my life later and being like, I did get through that though. I didn't
Hmm.
perish or die or get actually physically harmed by that water. So, like, in my future self, when I am going to do an adventure where I'm not going to have heated water, I'm just not even, I don't even care anymore. Like,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah, it helped that I grew up in a family that was like kind of run preppery. So like to us, it was just like on the job training. It wasn't,
Right.
it wasn't as like as daunting as it could be for some other people. And whether that was by design or not, I don't know. But it's definitely what kind of gave me my outlook on things. And I hope I don't have a unique outlook where I like to think that the situations that I'm faced with, I can always learn something from it. So no matter whether it was negative or positive, I can always learn, I can always change. So, this negative thing that I should become an addict because of, I can look at that and be like, I don't want to become an addict because I see that behavior and that's not what I want for myself. And I don't know what switch flipped to make me be able to like look at things that way
There's
because
probably a person in your life, because I know, like, for me, had I been around different people experiencing the things, I would have been impressioned upon in a different way. So I
mhm,
know, like, going through something hard and challenging, when I have surrounded my people who can actually, with people who can support me through it, like that. I work with students with severe disabilities and have had serious trauma in their lives. And what I notice is, like, what is a deciding factor that has made them experience that trauma and go one way where they're really struggling, and someone else who's still functioning. And it's like, how did the people around them handle it?
mhm. I just talked. Yeah,
You
I
mentioned
love that.
parents. You're like, well, but my parents were preppers. So they were like looking at this as a learning tool and being
Yeah,
positive about it. And like,
yeah,
when I was going through it with my mom, like she's an educator too. So she was like, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, and step by step process of like, well, if we
yeah.
want to take a hot bath, we can do this. We can boil the water. We can do this.
Mhm.
We can fix the situation. Is it going to be more work? Yeah, but hey, no big deal.
Yeah. That's your outlook for your students. I just interviewed a couple of special educators and they I just want you to know the outlook that you just described, you having to, take care of them. And I say take care of and not handle because I don't believe it's handling. Handling makes it sound like it's a problem. It's not a problem. They need care.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is kind of a rarity. And I'm glad that I'm finding the people that are supporting children because I know growing up, it took me till I was probably in junior year of high school before I had a teacher that like genuinely like cared about me, and then I started to notice them more. And for giving teachers as much credit pre-COVID, during the beginning of COVID, to like the way they're being treated now, the fact that there's still any teacher that's out there preaching that level of care is amazing, but probably also more rare. So again, that's another moment where like what you're trying to do and what you're able to accomplish in even one kid's life is going to last so much longer than anything else. Like that is a legacy that is worth fighting to keep. And I love that. I can't express how much I believe that is important. So again, good on you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I get a lot of that, but then sometimes I think I'm like, I'm really doing what I love. Like, I really enjoy it, and I know, like, people will call them the tough kids and things like that, and I'm like, they're just kids like any other kids. They've had different experiences that have led
Hmm.
them to this place, but once they come to me, like, they start acting like they like should. They get, if they get the needs met, they get the care. If they see how the adults around them handle these challenging behaviors with a level of positive attitude that's there and present and with them in it and showing them a different way, it makes a huge difference. And what I really love and what's special about my job is I get so much one to one with them to
Yeah.
really make the connection so deep and strong, because the relationship is the most important thing in changing
Yeah.
students' lives. The It's not what you teach them. It is not the math that my kids are learning. It is not learning how to read even. Like, it is the relationships that they have built here at school that have made them feel happy, safe, and successful.
Yeah, I think that that is probably the most important lesson. And, like I said, talking to other teachers, it's been, you know, horror stories of like where that one kid gets treated poorly by other teachers. So they start to believe that they are a problem. And, all it takes is that one teacher to be like, nah, homie, you just got a bad deck of cards handed to you. Like, I'm here for you. Like, I get that this is what it is. If you want to talk about it, I'm here to talk about it. If you just need somebody to make a joke or two to make you smile in your day, so you had something to smile about, like that's like, to me, heroes work. So, and that's what it takes. And
They've made
for
me a better
somebody,
person. They have made
I
me
bet.
so much more patient. They've made me really force me to look on the bright side of stuff, because some of our days here can be really hard. But
Yeah,
like we do at the end of the day, every day, we do roses and thorns. What are our roses of the day?
I
What is
like
our
that.
thorns? Let's talk about it. Let's openly share our thorns so everybody knows what caused me to have kind of a, what am I not looking forward to? What bummed me out? And that way anyone in the room can offer, oh, we can fix that tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, oh, thank goodness that was over. I share that with you. I was with you.
Yeah.
That sucked. That part of the day was bad. And then you have that camaraderie built.
Yeah, that's what I say. That's like, it's almost like in a 12-step program where, they ask people to share, and in sharing they realize that somebody else, especially in, PTSD situations and things like that, that led to, why they're there. Those are the things that, like, oh man, somebody else feels the way I felt. And like, now they don't have to voice that thing because they feel like somebody else sees them, and it's like, man, somebody else has got the same issue. I really like that. That's like, anybody can approach that, like before you lay down to go to bed, just be like, yo, what was the good thing today? What was the rose and what was the thorn? Like, I don't want to deal with that tomorrow. How can I fix that? How can I change that? I like that. That's good.
I think I want to have kids. And when I do someday, like that's definitely going to be something I want to do with my family. When, I don't know, like rituals, I think are important. I
Mm-hmm.
know that structure has helped me just live my life a little more, like, less chaotically, less impulsively, because if I can
Mm-hmm.
really think about decisions in a structured way, like I'm going to make a more happier choice for myself. And when I've made rash and impulsive decisions, it doesn't always lead to actually my happiness. Um, so I think ritual and structure help. Like, I know me in my day-to-day life, and I give that for my students. So I want to continue the work I've done with them. I just, everything I give to them, I do so much. I give and I think, oh, what would benefit them? And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm stealing that for myself. That's going to work for me. Roses and thorns. Oh, I'm doing that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I love that. I mean, that's that's such a good thing. I was like, how can I approach that with my kids? And I very much agree that, structure is kind of a thing. Like, we have our routines and our things that we do every week. And once a month we do upside down days on Wednesdays, because that's my day off. So I make breakfast for dinner. And they love that, but they get to choose whatever day that is. But Thursdays, because way back when, that was the day that all of us, I was home, Courtney was home. So instead of Taco Tuesdays, because we weren't all home on Tuesdays, we did Taco Thursdays, and that's still a thing that we do, years later.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's just probably simple enough of a thing to do where, like, even no matter what's going on Wednesdays, what's going on, Tuesdays, what's going on a Friday, on Thursdays we have tacos, and it doesn't matter whether we make them at home or whether we get them, whatever it is. It's just like, yo, we're gonna have tacos tonight, and that's something I hope they look forward to. And later on in life, they're gonna be like, you remember when we had Taco Thursdays? Like, that's such a weird thing. Why do we do it on Thursdays? And so
Yeah,
yeah.
we have to like have you help them remember that part, but they'll be like, I really remember that. If the whole world
Hmm.
was Taco Tuesdays, why in the world did we do Taco Thursdays?
Exactly.
At the time, it
Uh,
was just the thing. That's just what we did.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell them all the time, they're gonna have some random memory, and I try and be a goofball. And like, you know me decently, so to this probably isn't surprising, but I'm a giant goofball, and I definitely turn it to like 11 when I'm with them. And later on in life, it's like, man, you're gonna be like friggin' dad, like every time you think about that. And that's what's important. That's what I want you to remember, is the exciting fun parts, and making your own stories, and the life that I was able to provide for you, with stability and reinforcements in the right direction, and letting you be your own person. Like, that's what's important. And that ties back to the way you're caring for your students and your kids. Like, that's what you're doing, is you're providing a little bit of structure, a little bit of care, positive reinforcement. And I know you enough to know that probably a little bit of goofy as well. So
Yes. I am gonna be moving on to junior high, and I was just a little worried if my goofiness, because I do elementary right now, and they can
yeah.
get with that. I did work at junior high previously, and they didn't seem to mind. And I did some student teaching in a high school level, and they didn't seem to mind. So I'm not gonna change who I am. I'm super goofy. Oh yeah. And I'm quite a showman. I think I don't know if you know,
Yeah.
actually. I did a lot of theater. I have
Yeah.
like that
Yep.
whole thing going on. And so when I found education, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a performance every day. I have this audience. I like it so much more than pretending because it's all real. But
Yeah.
yeah, the goof, you gotta have it. You gotta
Yeah.
make it entertaining.
That's
Kids let you learn
absolutely
better when it's relatable and funny and engaging, and I can teach the most boring thing, but I can make it sound like the most interesting thing in the world, and they'll just eat it
awesome teacher.
up.
I love it.
I mean, we've all
Not
had teachers where we're like, oh my god, I can't even focus, like they're so boring, they're so dry. I don't want to ever be that teacher.
Yeah. I think that when I look back at all the teachers I enjoyed, the younger the teacher, I think the more I enjoyed them, because they didn't make it dry. They tried to make it fun. Even if it was like, oh my God, what are you doing? I was at least aware enough about what was going on, because I was paying attention. So like,
Hmm.
they did a good job. Um,
Yeah, I want to be
we're gonna,
70 and doing that. I want to
yeah, hopefully.
be 70 years old and doing a song and dance.
I love it. I Please do, please do. And by that point, we're gonna have like live streams for everything, so maybe we'll be able to see a
Right.
video somewhere. Um, Moving on to like some of your adventures. What are some of the like
The big.
fun stories you might have, mishaps maybe, about like some of your adventures that you've been on? Like, first off, I guess tell some people where you've walked and hiked and journeyed, because that's what it is.
Oh my gosh. I think like one of the biggest, most formidable adventures. I decided to join the army right out of high school. Um, and so that was like a big leap and adventure, but I knew it was going to kind of like springboard me into a lot of things. There was a lot going on in our country in 2008. We were
Hmm.
sending a lot of troops overseas. I had big dreams and aspirations for myself, but I've always had a very self-sacrificing, like I have a tendency to really just give and give and give.
Yeah.
And like it was a good option. There was money in
Hmm.
it, and then I felt like I was giving, so I joined. Um that was quite an adventure. I actually really discovered that I thrived under the structure of it. Um I really enjoyed, I had been very like fashionable and like wearing crazy stuff before that. And I was like, wow, I really like uniforms. Like I don't spend any mental energy exhausting myself thinking about what to wear. Like everything is like lined out for me. Be here at this time, do this, do this. And I'd felt like up to that point through high school, my high school career was so crazy. It was so chaotic. I felt very out of control. I was very out of control of my emotions. I was like, my life seemed out of control. I went to like 4 different high schools. It was the going from that to the structure was like just what I needed. So I felt like that was the perfect thing to do, but it was also like a big shock. It was a big shock. I think even when I tell people today that I have served in the military, they're like, you just don't seem like the type. I don't, I'm really like, I'm not. I'm still me. I'm still who I was. But I discovered so many things about myself being put in that level of structure, which is very intense. Um, I got hurt, so I got a medical discharge. And
Mm,
that led me to college. I was able to go to college from doing that, which wasn't really necessarily going to be easy for me as that, having done that,
hmm.
because the GI Bill did help with undergrad. Um,
Yeah.
so I did spend time in a like I broke my tibias. I had multiple bilateral stress fractures that under the conditions like would not heal. So
Mm,
they did end up medically discharging me, and it took a long time to heal my bones from the
yeah.
stress that they were put under. And it I was in like this rehab facility for like 6 months with no
Oh,
program.
wow.
And it was such a bummer. It was just really depressing. Um,
Yeah.
I can't, all I can say is that I made it out. Like the only lesson I have is like
Yeah.
I made it out and I got benefits from having joined the military anyway. And I got some really like relationships from the military that have lasted for a very long time. I know people from all over the country, all over the world, even from
Yeah.
my time in the service. And it allowed me to go to college. And I went for theater and I studied to be an actress. I graduated from that. I really did give it my all trying to be an actress. And I was getting really successful at it. It was something that I kind of saw myself like, okay, I can do this. Like if I moved to a bigger city, I could make this work. But the structure of it, the routine is not there
Hmm.
when you're acting. Like you have all of these rehearsals and you have all these late nights and you have early mornings and then you have all these peaks and valleys of like the high of being in a
Interesting.
production and the lows. And so I felt again like my life was absolute chaos. And emotionally, I started roller coastering again. And I was like, this is really bad. This leads to bad things for me because I have ADHD and like I'm an empath, I'm emotionally attuned. I express my emotions
Yeah.
very fully and pretty extremely and I'm hypersensitive to things. So like I do experience my life with like high nerves. And so if I lack the structure and I lack the sleep and I have too much chaos, I get into manic states and depressive states. And it
Hmm.
just, I knew where it was leading me. So I just was like, I've got to try something new. So
Yeah.
it's like that self awareness, like that living authentically, like you have to just be like, okay, I like this. I like theater. I'm good at it. I could make this work, but like, why am I so sad then?
Yeah.
Why am I so up and down? Like, that doesn't feel good. Like, I like the highs, but the lows, yeah, I don't want to do that. So I got a job as a para, like a para educator. And I was like, education, this is my
Hmm.
jam. I could teach. And I got my master's then. Right
Oh,
after I
yeah.
got my master's, I went on a really, really, really long hike. I went on a 6.5 month hike. I walked from Canada to Mexico And it was still very structured. You wake up, you walk, you go to sleep. Wake up, you walk, you go to sleep. You wake up, you walk, you go to sleep, and you see magnificent things. And you put your body through absolute torment
Hmm.
90% of the time for like 10% of beauty that just makes it all worth it. And you meet strange people all over the United States. I think one of the funniest things was getting caught in a blizzard in Wyoming. So
Yeah.
You've been through Wyoming winters. This was November, so it's
Yeah.
just starting, right?
Yep.
And the blizzards are going to start. We start hiking from a pass on a
Hmm.
trail, and the snow won't stop. And it's days and it's days. And by, day 4, I'm up to snow at my knees. I'm walking like
Oh wow.
half a mile an hour. I have still 68, I don't even know, 80 miles to go. And I feel like we've gone nowhere. And it's just like, okay, it's time to like get picked up, get rescued. What stranded. Um, we're able to make like a phone call to be like, yeah, we can get picked up by parents if they don't get like shut down from these blizzards. And we just build like a primitive shelter thing just for fun, hang out in one spot and then walk back to where we started. Um, in the blizzard, just having the best time. Just in a
Yeah.
blizzard, the snow won't stop. It's getting a foot every night, and we're just like I'm digging the tent out, like pushing the snow away from the tent because like we're melting it underneath us. You don't want to be in a puddle. It's just
Yeah.
like laughing, uh freezing, but hey, do I have water? Yes. Do I have still some food in my bag? Yes. Can I stay dry? Well, in my tent I can. So
Yeah.
let's just hang out in the tent and have a good time and draw pictures on the wall, make ourselves laugh. Oh, look, there's a mouse hole, a little mouse. We'll draw a mouse in the tent.
I love that. That's that's a tough one, and there's so many survival manuals that say, like finding one thing to look on the bright side of in situations like that to keep your morale will improve your survivability by like 33% or something like that. And I think that that's insane, but it's true. Like
It's
that's
true.
what
Have
it
you
is.
seen that TV show Alone? Have you ever watched?
I've heard of it, I have not seen it.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that's what the winners do. Like
Yeah.
if you have that negative attitude, you're not gonna make it. The
Yeah.
ones who
And
can just be like, okay, yeah, this is shitty, but hey, I'm gonna make a stick figure and make a little joke about it. They're the ones that make it to the end and they look like dumbasses. They look like
yeah.
they're a jokester. Oh, this isn't the smartest person. Oh, they're not building the best shelter, but it's the person that's having a very good time. Like
Yeah.
that's what makes it, right? They're
Yeah.
making it to the end, surviving.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it is, the goal is in sight. You find a way to get there, and morale doesn't get enough credit in a lot of situations, but if you can be laughing, you can make it through anything. It's when you lose that hope and that joy. We recently did an episode on why do we fall in love with potential, and I just like it's because hope. You have to hope, and if you can't hope, then you can't do anything. Like if you lose that hope, then all is lost. So you gotta have that hope, gotta
Yeah.
have that laughter.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be hard to even experience any emotion without hope. Even
Yeah.
like pain. Like
Hmm.
I think without hope it's just all numb. There's just
Yeah.
nothing there.
Yeah.
Why even do
I,
anything, right?
exactly.
Why do anything if there's no hope, that risk that it could be really great?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it comes out to is, you taking the really, really long walk and being in a blizzard and going through Wyoming winters, which for the record, if you have never experienced a Wyoming winter, like no joke. If
Whoa.
it starts snowing, it doesn't stop snowing until it just is like, yeah, like it's the wildest thing. But more importantly, winter can start in September to like October-ish. So by the time it gets to November, if it starts snowing, it is full on like like dead of winter snow. And I had left Wyoming June 25th and it snowed the week before we left. So like it was, and it was a lot of snow. It wasn't just a small amount of snow. It is insane to me how much it snowed there, and the temperatures get pretty cold. Like I felt negative 60 degrees, and like I don't I don't need that anymore. Like I'm good. I want to be somewhere warm. I don't want to be anywhere where like there is a skin warning. I had never heard that in my life, but like they were like there's a skin warning, and I was like, what is a skin warning?
Like if
If
you're out
any,
for 2 seconds,
yeah,
you have risk of
yep,
frostbite. I mean,
yep,
whoa.
yeah. What is
Oh,
what?
that's very serious, and it is. It's so serious. Yeah, we
Yeah,
are very. We also, again, with the blizzard coming, like that whole time. It's November. I know that there was potential risk for that part of the hike through where we were at Wyoming to be totally just like we wouldn't have even gotten there because had it snowed in October, right? So by the fact that we got to November, borrowed time. That's how I felt. Every day that I was stepping foot in Wyoming was borrowed time.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
there was always potential for that to be shut down. And when we got shut down, we were prepared because we had already been planning like what happens if, where will we go next? Will we skip up to the snow? What will we
Hmm.
do? We went down south in order to complete the trail. It's called the Continental Divide Trail. That's what I hiked. I did have to do it in 3 different sections of bumping around. So, like, I graduated in May, right? A lot of people start through hiking in spring and earlier. So, because we were
Hmm.
starting later, we just chose to start in Colorado in the mountains because it wasn't
Hmm.
going to be as hot. I
Yeah,
started in the southern New Mexico in May. It's
yeah,
been blistering.
yeah,
So, okay, let's start in southern Colorado then instead. And then
yeah.
go up north until we got run out by the blizzard. Well, now what should we do? Okay, we could go to New Mexico. We could go up. We actually ended up in the summer going up to Montana and Glacier, which was
Hmm.
kind of a mistake. But it's also funny because we get there, and of course, they break the record for hottest.
Yeah.
They broke triple digits in Glacier that year. First time in the history of all of the national park, it's in triple digits. It's 100 degrees in this basically rainforest. It was hot.
I
It was
bet.
humid. The mosquitoes were huge. The flies were biting. You couldn't see the trail because there's all these like bushes, berry bushes, and then you're walking and you step in bear shit, and you're like, oh, holy shit, it's bear shit. That's cool too.
Yeah.
I got to see
See,
a bear on my birthday. I saw a bear on my birthday. I will always remember that. Like my
that's awesome.
28th birthday, I saw a bear in person. And I hadn't seen a bear yet that whole time. And I was like, it's on my birthday. That's so special.
That's awesome. Those are those. It's like when a butterfly lands on your hand and you're just. It's like this doesn't happen in real life. This is happening in real life. I love it.
This is only a movie script, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, it sounds like you had a good time and made, really good memories. And the biggest thing is that, like, I was just talking to somebody like before we jumped on is, like they said, I'm so proud of you for following your dreams because I'm doing this podcast. And for me, it's like, it's not necessarily that I'm following a dream. It's just that like, it's something that I wanted to do. And when I look back on my life, I want to be like, I took every chance that I wanted to take and I, I just did it. Like it wasn't, whatever. And I appreciate that you did that thing, and I appreciate you coming on and talking to us, and I will also appreciate your answers to the this or that here in a second, because that's how we like to end it, having some fun. So we're gonna get into that, but like I said, again, I just want to say how awesome it is that you got to do that, and I
You
can't wait
said
to.
like clicking the buy was the hardest part, right?
Yeah,
And when I
yeah.
did that trail, like the hardest part of doing a through hike, like people are like, oh my God, 6 months on a trail. I was like, no, no, no. The hardest part is getting to this, just getting out there, like leaving in your
Hmm.
car to go to the destination to take the first step. That once you're there and doing it, like it's all going to fall into place from there. Some people
Take
quit
the
their hike,
risk.
right? Some people quit, but they never feel regret because they did it. They did it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
nobody feels regret quitting something hard like that because they did it. They quit on their
Yeah.
own terms. The hardest thing though, people regret not starting. There's plenty of people who are like planning it. They do all this planning. I did 2 years of planning to hike that hike. 2 years of like really researching and planning and getting my gear list together to make it work. There's a lot that goes into it. And the hardest part is not all of that.
Yeah.
Not even the
I
hike.
love that.
It's
That is the
it's
nugget
pushing
of
by.
knowledge.
It's pushing by on that microphone.
Hmm.
Because once you got the microphone, well, now it's all in place. Now I just got to fumble through it and I just do it.
Hmm.
I just had to walk. I just had to put my foot in front of the other every day. Wake up, walk, sleep. Wake up, walk, sleep. That's all I had to do. It could be physically challenging, but that wasn't the mentally tough part. It was actually like, oh shit, gonna pack the car. Gonna
Yeah.
go. I had, there's people who are like, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? People are like, you need
Yeah.
to start your teaching career right now. And I'm like, once I start that career, when am I ever going to be able to
Yeah.
do a hike like this?
Yeah.
And then they're like, some older teachers, they lived in a different time than me, where it was actually
Hmm.
hard to get a teaching job. It is not hard to get a teaching job. We have a huge teaching shortage. I knew that. They're still living in like this weird past fantasy. Some people don't know, they can't mentally wrap their minds around the changing climate and that it's different
Hmm.
from when they were.
Yeah.
Like
I
they're like,
agree
well,
with
I was
that.
a teacher. I once graduated with and wanted to get a job, and this is what I did. You had to like job hunt and interview and interview and interview. And I was like, no, no matter what district I go to, they're gonna want me because I'm willing to take tough
Hmm.
kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, definitely it's so wild because it's the same with nurses. And like
Yeah,
there it used to be hard to go find a job to do that. Mechanics now, it used to be hard to get into a shop. When I graduated from school to do what I went to school for, there wasn't jobs in shops. It wasn't a thing, simply because there wasn't techs. And now everybody needs techs, and that's not what I do anymore. So like I could probably be like, yo, I just need some refreshers on my certifications, but I
yeah.
could do this and probably go find a job tomorrow if I wanted to. And I think that's like definitely. Yeah.
Sometimes timing, and then you have to, yeah, you can't be listening to people who will say it one way. You need to make sure you're getting lots of perspectives. Because had I listened to some bad advice, I could have not done what I did.
Yeah,
But when I
I mean,
came
absolutely.
back from the trail, I was teaching 2 days later. Two
Yep.
days later, I took no breaks.
Take those risks, buy that microphone, buy that
Bye.
gear, pack the car,
Mhm.
and get out there. So we got the this or that.
Okay.
And first question: summer nights by a fire pit or winter afternoons by a wood stove?
Winter afternoons by the wood stove.
Yeah. See, I have a wood stove for the first time ever, and I have a fire pit, but I love my wood stove. I love
Right?
everything about it.
There's
It's
something
so
about being, it's cold outside and being warm.
mhm.
Like, there is something so satisfying. And yeah,
And I've had
campfires are fun. My wood stove, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm having so much fun. No, I'm just like so relaxed
yeah,
and peaceful.
it's relaxing. It's self-contained. I don't have to worry about doing a lot of stuff to it.
Mhm.
I've seen fireplaces and I've been around fireplaces, and I honestly feel so much more warmth. Like I can put my feet underneath the wood stove or like right up against it almost, and it's just warm. I don't have to worry about my socks catching fire or getting crispy. So like yeah, absolutely. Um,
I'm a
so
wood
our next
stove
one.
fanatic now. Like, now that I
Yeah,
have them, I'm like such a fanatic. I
yeah.
installed my own. That was so. You want another one? Come to me.
I love it. All right, so our next one, uh, kind of in line with that, building a house or growing a garden.
Oh, I'm going to say I enjoy growing the garden more. like,
I
like,
love it.
I don't know.
I
I guess both will help me survive. But if I'm just like, what brings me more joy? Definitely my garden than building
yeah,
my house. That
you
has been
couldn't
hard.
you couldn't see the eye roll, but I could see the eye roll just there, and I can only imagine how much more rewarding and simplistic growing a garden is. All right, last one: an unplanned adventure or an overplanned social event.
Unplanned adventure.
Good,
I think
good.
social events, like big events like that, kind of bring me anxiety. I like meeting new people. I said that, but not like a big social event.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can do, small social things and, whatever, but I would definitely we got a Jeep, and if somebody was like, "Hey, you got the time off right now, jump in the Jeep, follow me, let's go." I'm there. So I appreciate that as well. I also appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with me for a little bit, telling me some of your stories. I think that all of us support teachers, all of us support adventures, and all of us welcome anybody that is out here putting more into the world than they're taking out, and it definitely seems like what you're doing. So again, thank you for being on Home's Room. Thank you for having this conversation with
Thank
me.
you.
Hope you had some fun.
I had so much fun. Thank you for inviting me. This was fun. This was cool.
Good, good. All right.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? More podcasts, doing interviews. I keep telling people I'm writing another book. I got to get my third book in that series out. But right now, honestly, like I'm just kind of taking it as it goes. I need to get back on writing, but like I'm enjoying this podcast thing. I'm enjoying hearing people's stories and getting motivated to like do things because I suffer from depression quite often, and we're coming out of winter right now, and that was one of those like seasonal. I never realized how bad seasonal depression affected me until this winter. And as it started to get warmer, I pulled a project out that I hadn't worked on, and I thought maybe I'm just inspired because of this podcast thing, or maybe I'm just inspired because of whatever. And I started to think about it, and I was like, man, I don't ever actually do winter projects. I'm usually like, I just can't bring myself to go work on them, and I can't bring myself to like feel the energy to do it. And I was like, huh, I guess maybe I have more seasonal anxiety and seasonal depression than I thought I did. Because,
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that because, like, I had been like diagnosed with depression, and I've been had multiple diagnoses in my life, and I started thinking more about it. I was like, I don't know. I think winter hibernation is totally natural.
mm-hmm,
And I try to give especially this winter, I tried to give myself a break because yes, I have this big project in this house, but you can't always be pushing, and it's okay to not do shit. It's okay.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Like you don't, I don't know. Cause sometimes like if you're still functioning, if you're still doing stuff, then maybe it's not depression, but you are like a hibernated. Like I do feel
yeah,
that in the winter. The same thing. The lack of motivation to do stuff. I'm more tired. I don't have the energy. So like, then I start to get down on myself and negative to myself. But like,
yeah,
no, I don't need to because it's okay. It's winter time. I don't have the energy. It's winter. I'm
yeah,
using my body to keep warm. There is no
yeah,
vitamin D. Like I could take
yeah,
supplements and all of this stuff, which might help, but it's all temporary until I take the next supplement. So I think giving ourselves grace through that.
yeah. I like
And they
that.
say they label it seasonal depression, but is it not just natural? I look at all of the birds; they're all out now, right? Were they out
Mm-hmm,
3 weeks ago? No, they were
yeah,
low. They weren't out. They weren't here.
yeah. Yeah, I like that outlook on it because it's definitely like, you know, yeah, I like that. And
Oh, you
I'm
don't have
coming out of my
to, oh, I'm
hibernation.
depressed. I'm lazy. I'm not. No, you're just hibernating.
Yeah,
It's
I like that.
winter. It's okay. Sit by your wood stove. Do a
Yeah.
podcast. Read a book.
See, there you go. You dropped a lot of nuggets of knowledge on us. So good job.
Okay.
Way to be a teacher.
I get called a know-it-all too, so I accept it about myself. I can't help it. I can't help
Well, you have good insights, so don't help it.
it.
Just let
Okay.
it flow. Just let it flow. But yeah, again, thank you for being on here. I
Yeah.
appreciate it much. You have a
You
good night.
do that.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.